Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Alliance Bernstein. Since 2019, employees have impacted our community by giving more than 5,000 hours of volunteerism in Middle Tennessee. AllianceBernstein.com. Alliance Bernstein is not affiliated with National Public Radio.
I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. Happy Halloween, everyone. Today, we got a great show for you today because it's your turn to talk. We've got Mayor Freddie O'Connell joining us shortly. To talk with him, you can call us at 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. Now, look, I don't know about your place of employment, but here at Nashville Public Radio, some folks are really getting into the Halloween spirit. I mean, wow. This is amazing. Someone just walked into the studio in the most realistic Mayor Freddie O'Connell costume. I mean, they got the glasses, the beard. It is the classic Freddie O'Connell. They're even the same height as the mayor. And that beard looks so weird. I should try to pull it and see if it comes off, but I don't want to violate in that way. So there's no way that you got out that at the Halloween Spirits store. It's got to be custom made. Where did you get that costume, my friend?
Well, hey, this is Mary Mancini doing my best Freddie O'Connell looking like and sounding like. I've known Freddie a long time.
That's great. That's great. So do you plan to be trick-or-treating as the mayor?
We'll see. The White Avenue area has evolved a lot in that area off of Melrose, so we'll see what happens tonight.
All right. All right. You can call us at 615-760 to talk with Mayor Freddie O'Connell again. Mr. Mayor, thanks for being here, and thanks for being open to the joke. Really appreciate it.
Glad to be with you, Khalil, and of course, always love a scary music intro, too.
That's right. That's right. And we want everyone to know that while it is your turn to talk and to ask your questions and address your concerns to Mayor O'Connell, remember that Mayor Freddie O'Connell and his staff are human beings. So if you're happy or if you're upset, please treat everyone with respect. Now, with that, I do want to talk about something that's been on Nashvillians' minds for the past few days. Seems like you got yourself in a little bit of hot water by commenting on social media about the Titans' 52-14 loss to the Detroit Lions on this past Sunday, bringing their record to 1-6.
I gotta say, this didn't feel like hot water to me if it was water at all. I mean, this feels more like there are some media entities who were having a slow news day.
They were. I saw it on Sports Illustrated of all things.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild. Okay, so let me ask you this: you're a Titans fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to be a fan and to participate with people. I mean, Alex and I have talked about whether the Will Levis era is real or not for a long time. I've shared with a few people frustrations about watching Derrick Henry start to rack up yardage with the Ravens of all teams.
He's on pace for 2,000 yards.
And watching Mahomes connect with D-Hop, it's like, hey, what are we doing here, guys?
Look, I know the pains of loving your team, particularly when they're not doing a great job. What can the Titans do to turn their season around?
Well, this is what's interesting. I feel like I came into the season bullish based on what had happened in the offseason, and we've had, honestly, across a lot of our sports teams, significant changes. The Preds had a highly regarded offseason in terms of changes they made to their roster. You saw coaching change at Nashville SC. You saw a lot of moves on the Titans, and I think in all of these cases we were anticipating stronger starts to the season, and it was an uncharacteristically weak start for the Preds. And again, Titans at 1-6. It's been a lot of strong first quarters or first halves, but that's not going to get you into the playoffs.
It's tough to close out a game. There are 10 games left. Do you see the team in a rebuilding phase or wait till next year phase?
I am interested. It's, we've heard the injury report for Will Levis and a couple other folks. I still feel like there's an opportunity for him to be a quarterback that you can build the team around. And I think that a lot of the question is going to be between, the whichever quarterback is on the field and who's in charge of kind of protecting them. Then can you do that midstream, or is it going to have to wait till next season? I don't know yet.
We'll see. Speaking of interesting sports stories, University of Vanderbilt Vanderbilt University, the Commodores have had a very interesting month with the college football program. Earlier, they beat Alabama, who was then ranked number 1. And then this past weekend, they took
Texas a run for their money.
They took Texas all the way to the wire. That team was influenced by some changes. Obviously, they got the quarterback out of New Mexico State, but they also got offensive coordinator and former head coach Jerry Kill to be a part of that program. And we're seeing this turnaround there. Do you expect or anticipate continued success for the Commodores?
It seems like they may have this might be more than a moment, and for them to be ranked in the top 25 for the first time in more than a decade, this seems like a program that is maybe going to have some success. Now, again, how much of that is the current roster, and are they able to continue attracting talent versus is this a sign that coaching is prevailing and the coaching staff are getting it done? I mean, right now it's whatever it is adding up to a very exciting season. I mean, the most exciting season I think anybody who's been a long-suffering Doors fan has seen in quite a while. Yeah,
one of the top quarterback recruits in the country is from the Nashville area. Potentially, he decides to stay in town.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, look, I can talk sports with you all day, but we've got some other things to discuss. It's less than a week until Election Day, and what you could be a first-term defining issue on the ballot, the transit referendum.
Yeah.
If it passes, what are the first steps towards implementing the plan?
Yeah, so I think what you'll see in year one, if voters agree with us that this is a top priority for the city, and I would say there was a lot of agreement during the campaign, there was a lot of agreement during year one, and our hope is that voters stick with us after having told us for the past several years that this was something they wanted to do, that now that it's on the ballot, that we'll have a successful Tuesday. And if we are successful, then we have kind of, it's almost like day one, part two. It will be November 6th, where we hit the ground running and we start to really dig into that process of prioritization and design for a lot of these scenarios. But we think very quickly in year one, you're going to start to see that investment really begin to pay off with the first round of sidewalks projects, the first round of signal upgrades by a year from now with fall service changes in effect, some significant enhancements in transit service and safety improvements. So we think on all four of the big elements of this program, sidewalks, signal, service, and safety, that you will see movement in the first year of implementation. And then across a 15-year build-out period, it's supposed to build on itself each year and become an increasingly connected system. I was just actually out kind of talking about the intersection right by the new Rip Patton North Nashville Transit Center. Mm-hmm. And it's got a very limited amount of bus-specific infrastructure there, but also bus signal priority that allows new vehicles in WeGo's fleet to keep the light green there. It's also implementing a SMART grant from our federal partners that has real-time LiDAR implementation that's focused on pedestrian safety interventions and improvements there. And it's also an existing connection to the brand new state-of-the-art traffic management center that NDOT just opened. And if we can do what is happening at that intersection in 2/3 of our signalized intersections across Nashville and Davidson County, it adds up to time savings. I mean, if we all reclaim 10% of the time that we're spending in traffic right now, it's more times that we get to spend with our families rather than trying to get to them.
All right, it's your turn to talk. Our guest is Mayor Freddie O'Connell. If you have a question about the transit referendum, if you got a question about the Titans, the mayor is here to talk with you. Call us at 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. All right, on the transit referendum, if it doesn't pass, what can be done to improve traffic and improve transit and ease traffic concerns?
Exactly the same that we've been doing for the past 25 years. So limited incrementalism is what would be it would remain the order of the day.
All right. Now, you may have mentioned this a little bit earlier, but, the capital cost is estimated to have a cost of $3.1 billion.
Yep.
And once construction is complete, there will be annual recurring operating and maintenance costs of approximately $111 million. How long will it take to build out the plan and to reach full annual operating and maintenance costs?
So that cost that you're talking about is if we built the entire, like all of what you see on the maps today, and go to nashville.gov/transit, you can see the entire program. You can review interactive maps, see what's in store for your neck of the woods, whether that's at home or at work or your favorite places in the city, and see what those improvements are. But that'd be if we built that entire program today, that would be the cost. Then to your point, there, as you start to build out the program, as you increase service levels, that operating cost also increases because you've got more bus drivers, more routes, more signals online. You're running fiber to them. You're connecting them up to the traffic management center. But it's basically a 15-year anticipated build-out period, so that getting those 86 miles of sidewalk poured, doing those corridor transformations so that these places along our major stretches of roadway like Dickerson, like Gallatin and Maine, like Murfreesboro, Nolensville, Clarksville, where you currently will see dirt paths and ditches or parking lots that just run kind of right into the roadway and no infrastructure whatever that supports walking to your favorite local business, grocery store, library, whatever, no transit access, all of that stuff, corridor by corridor. There are some that are easier and we'll get to those sooner. There are some that will take a period of years. Some will require for us to get to full implementation, participation in state and federal programs. And so the complete implementation is expected to take 15 years, but we are expecting that year over year, you'll see improvements immediately. And that's part of the intention of the design of the plan.
Now, 15 years, cost may go up based on inflation, right?
Sure. But what you would expect is if the city continues to grow as we have seen in the past decade, you would also expect to see your sales tax collections increase over that time too. And the best part about that is that revenue capture is actually going to be paid for. The majority of it will come from out-of-county residents and visitors.
Okay. All right. We got the phones are lighting up. We're going to go to Jack in East Nashville. Jack, thank you for calling. What is your question for Mayor O'Connell?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I go to Shelby Park a lot, and that giant rusty trestle that CSX runs through there matches all of their rusty bridges around town. Surface rust is one thing, but it's starting to give me the willies. Thousands of tons rolling across these things daily. Does NDOT or TDOT see after that? And I had a second question about where we're at with the Fairgrounds Speedway. And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. On the first question, there is a federal railroad administration or railway administration that tends to have regulatory oversight of CSX and other similar railroad ventures. And so we have some short line railroads in Nashville and Tennessee as well. I think it's like anything else. A bridge collapse there, a trestle collapse would be devastating. And I do think that CSX, like any entity, is going to try to make sure that they're maintaining the basics of safety. But, our family has spent a lot of time in Shelby. I think it's a very interesting part of our overall transportation infrastructure that you see there with the train going through and over that part of the park. I've wondered about the structural integrity myself because it is a long stretch that's elevated. But it's not something that NDOT would go look at. It would be more likely a combination of TDOT and the FRA. As far as the Speedway and the fairgrounds, we have had some amount of conversations earlier this year. I would say we're kind of in a position where we're waiting for anybody to bring a proposal to the table that is workable. We have regular conversations with fair board members and the fairgrounds staff, and I've basically experienced everything there is to experience at the fairgrounds, from racing to soccer to the Nashville Fair to Christmas Village to various things that take place in the Expo Center. It's a very active part of the city, and I think what we've also conveyed to almost anybody with a significant interest in the Speedway is we knew that our top priority coming into office was going to have to be to start moving on the East Bank process as a result of the deal that was struck with the Titans last year, and that we also knew we'd be pushing forward on this referendum effort, and so that our most serious conversations were very likely to take place after November 5th. And I imagine my phone will start to ring on November 6th with people coming back to ask the same question you're asking.
All right. Thank you so much for that. We're going to take one more call before we go to break. We got Dax in Nashville. Dax, thank you for calling. What is your question or comment for the mayor?
Hi, Freddie. We've actually met before. You actually helped marry me when you were a councilman. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But my question for you is, I know you're not doing a lot for the transit, but I wanted to see what you're doing for parking downtown because it's getting quite expensive.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a challenge. I would say for me, I do appreciate the fact that I don't have to think about whether or not I've got enough quarters in my wallet for on-street parking. That's one option. Is that access to metered spaces should be a little more convenient for most folks. As a result of a parking modernization proposal that passed a couple years ago. Then we have a bunch of Metro garages. And so I will say when I am going to look to park downtown, I'm typically looking at the courthouse garage, the convention center garage, the library garage, the garage above WeGo, the Fulton campus if I'm south of downtown or convention center. Those tend to be more reasonable rates than a lot of places. It's a tough thing, though, because for private property owners there, we do not have a lot of regulatory authority in terms of the rates that they're able to charge. When I was on council, we included some signage requirements so that at least you shouldn't be surprised by what the parking rates are. But I will say, I do think all of this stuff adds up. I served on the Traffic and Parking Commission for a couple of years. We worked on some things to try to, again, get to some saner opportunities for the overall environment down there so that you couldn't just take an entire city block for valet and only pay $50 a year for it, that we're trying to get ahead of where our curb management is. But we also do expect increasing access to downtown to come with the decision we'll make together on Tuesday about the Transportation Improvement Program. Our expectation is that we'll relieve congestion and reduce the demand for parking. There is a huge amount of parking capacity downtown, but there is, as you know, a lot of demand to be down there. And so a lot of the paid parking lot owners are taking full advantage of that right now.
All right, Dax, thank you so much for your call. Before we go to break, Mr. Mayor, let me ask you a question. Is it possible, as a holiday gift to Nashvillians and people of Middle Tennessee, to have city parking become free from, let's say, Thanksgiving till the week of New Year's?
So here's what I will say to that. We have, and I don't have the full and final answer to this, but I've had several people ask me over the past year, recalling a time when it was the case that people that were coming in from other counties actually, basically we got discounted rates for Nashvillians. If you had a Davidson County tag, you either got free or discounted parking. And I'm interested in the kind of the legality of that, of, it's like, hey, if you've got a Williamson County plate, you're going to, we'll be happy to allow you to park for a certain cost. Mm-hmm. Happy to continue exploring that.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a break. So Dee Marie and Sue Ann, please stay on the line. We are going to come back to you. We're taking this short break. We'll be back shortly with more from Mayor Freddie O'Connell because it's your turn to talk. You want to talk to Mayor Freddie O'Connell? Call us up, 615-760-2000. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. Welcome back and happy Halloween. It's Thursday. That means it's your turn to talk. Our guest today is Mayor Freddie O'Connell. If you have a question or comment for him, call us up, 615-760-2000. Again, Mayor O'Connell, thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be.
All right, we've got a call coming in from Sue Ann, and I'm going to try to see if I can get this right. It's from Hohenwald, Tennessee. Hohenwald.
Yeah.
Man, I've never heard of it before.
Home of the Elephant Sanctuary.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I definitely have to go. Sue Ann, thank you for calling us from Hohenwald. What is your comment?
First, I want to say, Khalil, that I listen to you a lot, and you're so good. You're such a gem for Nashville.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Second, I have a question about biking. I always want to see bike paths. We live out in Hohenwald. We want to come into Nashville. We don't have a train. We don't have a bus. We would love to ride our e-bikes into Nashville. What's the transit's plan on any kind of bike paths and good bike paths, like off-the-road bike paths for people to enjoy and to get to work? Because e-bikes are now the new employee way to have a brand new vehicle to get to work on.
Yeah.
My comment.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. And the hard part about that concept for regionalism is we can't really design or pay for anything that Nashvillians decide on beyond our county line. And so I used to serve on the board of directors for a great organization called Cumberland Region Tomorrow, and they focused on working on planning toolkits for surrounding cities and counties. And I now am very lucky to be able to serve on the Greater Nashville Regional Council. And I think it really depends on a community by community basis, the level of interest in sort of regional transportation options. We have had historically pretty good partnership and collaboration among our city and county mayors, but it also involves city and county commissions around Middle Tennessee and Nashville and Davidson counties' neighbors. In our transportation program, we do have all access corridors that are, the intent is to make many of our core, the areas where we have the most public right-of-way available, to ensure that they are safe for all users of public right-of-way. And we were very serious about reissuing an executive order for green and complete streets earlier this year that is changing design standards to, again, try to make sure that we are focused on this is public land, it's public right of way. We do want it to be available to everybody that is trying to move around the city. So we've got some things that will impact Nashville proper. It's going to be harder for me as mayor just of Nashville to anticipate, being able to tell you with confidence that you'd be able to e-bike safely from Hohenwald. We have seen some success on our state routes that get out that way. I know that a lot of people love to bike down Natchez Trace, and so the Highway 100 area has seen some improvement. We actually had worked alongside some people who were regional bike riders years ago who kind of negotiated with TDOT about placement of rumble strips versus striped shoulders on the side of the road that could be used for biking. So we've had some marginal improvements through the years, but I think regionally there's a lot more that can be done. But I know that our planning department and the Greater Nashville Regional Council try to do as much as we can collaboratively with some of our Middle Tennessee neighbors. So fingers crossed that it gets better beyond our borders, but Tuesday we'll have a lot more certainty about how much we can accomplish in Nashville proper.
Can you imagine what that would look like, people from surrounding counties biking into Nashville?
Well, what we've seen around the country, especially during and immediately after COVID, is just a huge surge in popularity of e-bikes in particular. And I'll say with our B-Cycle, our current bike share operator, I'm a monthly member of that, and it's a great way to move around the city, especially when we're having beautiful weather like we have for this past few weeks of fall. There are regularly times when I and some of our team in the mayor's office will grab a B-Cycle from right by City Hall and ride down to the farmer's market for lunch.
All right, it's your turn to talk. If you have a question or comment for Mayor Freddie O'Connell, call us up, 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. Okay, we're going to go to Dee Marie out in Nashville. Dee Marie, thanks for calling. What do you want to share with us?
So first of all, I want to thank Mayor O'Connell for putting himself out there so we can call and speak with him. I am calling in again, as usual, about the transit. And did I understand you, Mayor, to say that this is a 15-year project, that after that time, the implementation and all of that should have been completed?
That's for the capital portion of the program. That's right. Like, we would expect to have all of the sidewalk and corridor construction, the signals upgraded, the necessary buses and vehicles to operate the transit service over that period.
So what would be remaining to be done?
Well, at that point, then you would just expect the system to operate. You might anticipate that this program calls for 2/3 of our signals to be upgraded, but it stacks on top of what our local Department of Transportation, NDOT, and WeGo are already doing. So we would expect to continue neighborhood-based sidewalk build-out over that period. We would anticipate that there may be changing service needs that aren't in the program that we would have to adjust to. So you would still see overall Metro Nashville's government continue to respond to where jobs were, where people were, whether we're continuing to grow all of the rest of the standard operations of our Department of Transportation, our planning department, our transit agency would all continue.
Okay. And my last question, is there some place where I can get the information and actually read everything that applies to the transit operation? Absolutely.
The whole program, the entirety of it, what's in it, how it's funded is up at nashville.gov/transit. We also do have interactive maps there so you can see the impact on your community.
And also, DeMarie,
Yes.
You can also check out all of the WPLN has done a great job of putting together a voting guide and a lot of information about the transit referendum. You can go to WPLN.org for that after you go to where the mayor directed you. Thank you so much for calling, DeMarie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I enjoy listening to you every day. Thank you.
Thank you. We enjoy having you, and we're humbled and honored that you listen to us. Okay, we're going to move on. We got Janie in Nashville. Janie, what is your comment?
My comment is I was wondering if there's any plans for community gardens in the infrastructure money that's being put in.
Well, so under the state law that allows us to do this, it's really challenging because you do have to stay pretty focused on the programmatic elements of it. What we do know is that we're hoping at some of the community transit centers where we've got dollars for land acquisition that we could see whether it's WeGo doing it or working in partnership with other Metro departments and possibly some private partners, people who are, mission-driven trying to do this work, that you could see some community gardens there. But if you're reading through the overall program document, you're not going to see community gardens as a priority because we just legally can't use the funding for that. I will say, as we look at the combination of food access and food security issues, as we look at green and open space, as we continue to work with partners on nutrition programs, our Metro Public Health Department, our Parks Department, the Mayor's Office, we do have a focus on trying to make sure that whether through an implementation guide to Plan to Play and some other things, that we are trying to find new ways to offer more capacity for community gardens in the city. It's just not, it couldn't be something we could include as easily in this program.
Well, I could recommend that if you are interested in it, you could check with Shelby Farms in Memphis, Tennessee. They have a wonderful program. They turned an old penitentiary into farming, and people, if you want to farm, you go tell them you want to farm, and they give you a plot. You can have as many plots as you want and grow what you want, and it's really, really nice.
Well, I'm glad to know about that, and I will take a look at that. So thanks for the suggestion.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Bye-bye.
for listening. Bye.
Thank you so much, Janie. Really appreciate that. All right, we're going to go to Dana, in Forest Hill. Dana, thank you for calling. What is your question or comment for Mayor O'Connell?
Hi, thank you. I have heard that attached to this bill, or in order to get the federal funds or something like that, that we have to do away with the rules in some of these areas that say you can't build more than one home on a lot. And I was just wondering if that's true.
It is absolutely untrue. It is one of the most disingenuous points of opposition to the overall program. This is specifically focused on transportation and infrastructure. We, in fact, had our Department of Law and our Department of Finance review every possible channel for federal support, state support. There are no preconditions anywhere in the program for local, state, or federal that require anything of the sort. It is just not true.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Really appreciate that. Okay, so have you done polling for the transit referendum?
The mayor's office has not done polling. I have heard that other organizations throughout the year have done some. I have not had the opportunity to review anything in depth, but I have seen, I guess, what you would call sort of the main top line figures that, it seems like all along from the Imagine Nashville work that did publish their results, they showed very favorable landscape for putting this together before we had the program all the way finalized. The Vanderbilt poll that came out earlier this spring followed suit with that and showed a lot of public acceptance for this idea. And so I feel like we're approaching this from the standpoint of this was popular the day we took office. It has remained popular since we've designed it. So again, hope it retains that level of public support all the way through Election Day.
Now, this may be, if it passes, this potentially may not be a like, if you build it, they will ride sort of thing. What is the plan to market the new bus system to potentially new riders?
Yeah, and what you just said is exactly true, and we saw this for the 7 years that I was on the Nashville MTA Board of Directors. When you increase and improve transit service levels, what you see is ridership increases. That means as we expand crosstown connections, as we offer new levels of service, new types of service, you almost always see ridership improve and increase. And when you offer transit as an amenity to large organizations like Vanderbilt University and Vanderbilt Medical Center, which have long been WeGo Ride participants, you get large, new, stable bases of ridership. One of my favorite things I did before I left Metro Council was ensure that the WeGo Ride program was available to our 4 historically black colleges and universities. At a recent council meeting, we actually had to increase the allocation for Meharry Medical College because their faculty, staff, and students had actually been using it so heavily. Those are great opportunities. I would encourage people to visit nashconnector.org. This is a transportation demand management program operated by NDOT, our local DOT. And it's exactly that. It's trying to make sure that people know what is available in the city for options, know how to reduce their costs, reduce the cost of money, but also the cost of time in their commute. And it's a great program. They just had a summit earlier this year. I think once we're through Election Day, you're going to see a lot more opportunities for employers to participate, people who have been supportive of the program itself. As we have gotten to this point, I think the next step logically is for some of them to start to offer this as a more meaningful benefit to riders. I was just talking to someone last night, in fact, about having younger Nashvillians kind of use some of that creative energy to create content around this. And so I think there are going to be some grassroots things that happen. I think that WeGo is going to have some opportunities as a transit agency. I think some of their partners are going to have some opportunities. And then I do think the Nash Connector program is going to strengthen over the next several years.
All right. One last question for you. It's kind of controversial.
Okay.
What's your stance on candy corn? Give me more or get it the hell out of here?
This one, I feel like growing up, I was not a candy corn guy. And it's like, I think it's like a lot of things as you, I hope this is the case for most people that you find your ability to tolerate things. Like I am a less picky eater now than when I was a kid.
Okay.
Right. And so Patrick in our office has come up with, what I would call candy corn mixes. And so
all right.
I would not just ordinarily, like if you showed me several different bowls of candy, if I'm at a Halloween party tonight, I wouldn't just go grab a fistful of candy corn and that would be like the most satisfying thing. I'm probably going to go for the Reese's or, something else that's got some sweet and sour to it. But I'm not going to be offended if I grab from a bowl and it's got some candy corn in it the way that I like. It wasn't my favorite candy as a kid. Now I can comfortably tolerate it, enjoy it a little more than I did.
A couple of corns, but not a handful. See, I'm a handful kind of guy. Always have been. Really want to thank you, as always, Mayor Freddie O'Connell, for taking time out of his schedule to talk with us and to answer our questions and address our comments. As always, Mayor O'Connell, thank you.
Good to be with you. Thanks, Kalu.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to learn about the life and legacy of David Skulls Shulman, also known as the mayor of Printers Alley. You can join the conversation by calling us at 615-760-2000. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. I like how the bass drops in that. That's pretty cool. All right, now born in 1917, David Skulls Shulman was a Nashville native who grew up in Germantown. As the proprietor of the original Skulls Rainbow Room downtown, he became known as the mayor of Printers Alley, a relatively hidden street in downtown. Now, in 1998, Skull was murdered during a robbery attempt, and he is now said to haunt the buildings and streets of the area. Joining us now to tell us the story of the ghost mayor of Printers Alley is Mark Terrian. He is the owner of Nashville's Tours and Haunted Nashville. Mark, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Oh, my pleasure, Khalil, and happy Halloween, of course. What better story to talk about than the most famous ghost of Nashville?
It is a great story to have and a great day to have him here, and it's your turn to talk, so call us at 615-760-2000, and we want to learn one of the following. What frightening encounters have you had with ghosts or the supernatural? What scary story scares you the most? And what's your favorite part of Halloween? Again, you could call us up, 615-760-2000. All right. Now, Printers Alley is like a nightclub district that dates back to the 1940s. Mm-hmm. But before that, dating back to the mid-1800s, it was this home to Nashville's printing and newspaper industry. And in the 20s, it was a place where you could always get yourself a drink during Prohibition.
Yep, the brown bag mixing lounges. This was the place for the juice, the hooch, the corn liquor.
Hey.
That's where you got it. And, they had some bootleggers that were down there, and then we had a lot of, people from out of town, gangsters from Chicago. They came down there as well to kind of hang out in Printers Alley.
Not a long drive.
No, it was called the Dixie Highway. It actually had a name, Dixie Highway, that went all the way from Chicago to Florida. And if there's one in particular gangster that hung out in Miami who was from Chicago a lot, it was Al Capone. So he had a little stop here.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
How did David Skulls Shulman get his start?
Yeah, so he was a paper boy on the alley. In fact, the very building where the Rainbow Room is today was the Tennessean that he worked at. Mm-hmm. And he used to deliver papers we had the trolleys that went up and down Cherry Street, which was 4th Avenue today. And he did the evening edition in Tennessee for 3 cents. And from there, he kind of met other people that worked the alley doing the things that we were just talking about. And he got into gambling really young, but he also, and there were a lot of gambling houses underneath basically where the printing presses were.
Okay.
Not just places where you could get a little something to drink, but you could also do some gambling. There were dice games, there was roulette, there were card games, and it was all going down, and he was really into it. He's kind of a math wizard. So he played a lot of cards, and he was also at one point a dealer down there. He was really into sports too. So he also worked for the Nashville Vols, which was the baseball team at the time, not the Tennessee Vols. They're known as the Sounds now, but they were known as the Nashville Vols. And he worked there as a child, and that's really kind of another place where he got into sports and sports gambling.
I mean, he seems like a pretty smart guy, like a self-made person. He graduated valedictorian from Hume Fogg.
That's right.
He went to Vandy, got an engineering degree, but
That's right.
something kept drawing him back to the seedy underworld. of
Well,
Prentice
and he
Alley.
went off to World War II.
Okay.
So he was an Army medic there in the South Pacific and in India, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And he got into, gambling even on the downtimes. Playing cards was something, a lot of veterans did during that era. And, when he got back, he had to open up a club. And so he had friends, and they all opened up what was known as the Rainbow Complex, which consisted of the Voodoo Lounge, the Black Poodle, and of course his Rainbow Room. And gambling was up in the Rainbow Room. That's where they did all that. And of course you could get a drink too, which was illegal in this town to get a drink in this town till 1967, which many people are, even you, shocked to hear.
Yeah.
We were the first state to have that law implemented in 1909, and we went all the way to 1967. So this is why, places like Printer's Alley, an alley, that is kind of underground, a bunch of basements, was so popular for nightlife because you could actually get what you were looking for: burlesque, gambling, and drink. And it's funny that we're talking about the mayor of Printer's Alley, which he was known by his friends, and of course the newspaper talked about it. But it's funny, the mayor was just here because there were mayors who were considered wet mayors that ran on a platform that said Printer's Alley's off limits. As opposed to,
So law enforcement's going to play a blind eye, turn a blind eye towards Printer's Alley. And
that was a platform.
Wow.
Imagine having that call-in show. So, about Printer's Alley.
That'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people already say 2024 reminds them of Idiocracy. That's another step.
There you go.
All right, we got some phone calls. Some people have questions. We've got Sarah Ann in Nashville. Sarah Ann, thanks for calling. What's your question about the mayor of Printer's Alley?
Hey, Sarah.
Yes. Hi, Mark. You seem to know a lot.
I hope.
So I am a third-generation Nashvilleian, and there are so many stories. We love skulls. I grew up, you'd have a fancy dinner there. But my question is, do you know, because there are several stories, why did people call him Skull?
Yeah, there are several stories. We've heard many things like a baseball hit him in the head, or it was just a nickname because his name was Schulman. I have an article from 1974 which actually calls him the mayor of Printer's Alley. In the article from the Tennessean, that actually quotes Skull himself of how he got it. He got it in an accident while he was a child. He was in a car accident, and he actually cracked his skull, got a plate in it, and that is how he actually got the name Skull. And how he got the name Skull was the baseball players, because he worked as a bat boy back then. They thought it was funny that he had a plate in his head, and they just called him Skull. Because baseball players like to...
They're clever.
Yeah. So that's the real reason we know. At least that's from the man's mouth. Could there be other reasons? Maybe.
What did you hear, Sarah Ann?
Well, I've heard like a car accident, and then that he got hit in the head with a baseball, and then some other weird stuff. But those are the most two consistent, and I just have never known, does somebody know the real story?
Yeah, it's from the horse's mouth, as they say. Schulman got it in a car accident, and he has a plate. And in fact, he even talks about when he was in the going to the Army, he had so many doctors looking at his head to see if he could serve in World War II. He actually wrote home about that.
Wow.
About how many people were concerned about the plate in his head. And then he still served. So
Interesting life. Sarah Ann, thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so, 1988. What was Printer's Alley like back then? 1998.
98. Yeah. So in 1973, we had the Grand Ole Opry leave downtown Nashville. And so Broadway, not what it was today. Most people were going to Printer's Alley from the Opry. But then by the 80s and 90s, no one's really going to the alley anymore. They're spending a lot more time in Opryland, where the Opry is. And of course, there's still the honky tonks that are over there today. They were very popular in the 80s and 90s. So it's more seedy. It's seedy, even though there was always a crime element. With Printer's Alley, it was more of a classy prime, what you see on TV with the suits and the nice dinner and the fine dining for the wealthy criminal element. But by the 80s and 90s, it's for the more, underbelly criminals, that the ones that are, walking the streets and vagabonds and going into strip clubs. And that's all it was. It was a red light district. There were a lot of what became burlesque shows became strip clubs, full-on strip clubs. Skull the Poodle was a strip club. He used to get in a lot of trouble for having not only topless but bottomless. So he used to get in a lot of time. So you're adding that kind of element to downtown Nashville.
All right.
And so it's dangerous.
So it changed from like crime in high cotton to crime on the lowest levels. What happened on January 21st, 1998? That was the day that Skull was murdered, right?
Yeah. So he's 80 years old now. And, times are tough. Business is tough. Not many people want to go to an alley, especially a dangerous one. And he opens up, as he did every day, at 4:30 in the afternoon. There was a gentleman by the name of Jason Pence who had actually worked for him as a busboy or a dishwasher, who knew that Skull liked to keep cash in his front pocket of his overalls, which he got from Hee Haw. So he told another man by the name of James Cavey that he did this. And James was only 17 years old. And he was like, well, we should rob him. And so they staked out. There's the parking garage that's right across from Skull, still there today. They staked out on the second floor, watched him walk in the door as he did every single day at 4:30 in the afternoon. 5 minutes later, they enter in, and Cavey just goes at it. He's screaming, yelling. He wants everything, all the cash in his pockets, all the cash in the register. And Skull was a feisty guy. He'd been there 50 years running nightclubs on a very tough alley, and he's 80 years old. He's not putting up with it. So he actually fights back. And in the fight and in the scuffle, Cavey is able to find a dull steak knife, as police reports would report, and he actually takes it to his neck and then slices it. There have been reports that it was 6 times in the police report. And at which time, when Skull actually was still breathing, he kept fighting. So Cavey then took a bottle and broke it over his skull.
Wow.
Which some might say is irony. I will say it's just terrible.
Now, after the murder, the building became a storage area for the blues bar next door. But that's when people started seeing the ghost of Skull. What were folks seeing?
Yeah, because the Blues Bar opened up in 1995, so it's been a staple there for quite some time. And they left the Skull side empty for 17 years. And they used it for storage. And when they would go in there, they would notice that things had been moved around and that the temperature felt like a meat locker. And then there would be lights that would flicker even though they didn't have electricity turned on in there. They saw shadow figures on the walls. And then when they started even doing construction to open up the new Skulls back in 2014-15, things would fall all the time off the ceiling, light fixtures. There was an accident with a man falling off a ladder, and ladders, just moving out of nowhere. And so they just have always had these images of a man just kind of creeping around there. But also people had claimed, and sometimes alcohol induces these claims, a man walking with 3 poodles, which Skull was known to have. He always had at least 3 poodles with him at all times, and he was known for walking them up and down the alley daily.
Okay.
That they've seen him late at night at 3 a.m. So that one I can't vouch for.
So Skulls is one of the many haunted places in Nashville, according to what you think, right?
Absolutely. We're a very haunted city, we're not known like New Orleans or Savannah or Charleston, but the reason why is because of our history. We were one of the most populous indigenous places in the world, with 350,000 Mississippians that roamed this land. And then the Civil War, of course, came through here with multiple battles that happened not only in the South of Tennessee and Nashville, but right here in Nashville. So we have many haunted places, haunted stories of murder and dark secrets. The state capitol has 2 bodies buried beneath the walls.
Wow.
As well as a president buried on the grounds. And some people even think it's on top of a Native American burial ground, but that's another story for another day.
Maybe they can find Jimmy Hoffa there. Who knows?
He spent time here, in Nashville. The trial was here.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Okay, we have a quick comment from Jonathan in Murfreesboro. Jonathan, I did want to get you in. What do you want to share with us, my friend?
Hey there, it's a first-time caller, long-time listener. Really enjoyed you guys. You guys were talking about the Dixie Highway and Al Capone. My understanding is I live in Murfreesboro, and the Dixie Highway is 41, Highway 41, Murfreesboro Road, right? And Al Capone, is my understanding, always stopped in Murfreesboro to get his haircut because his favorite place to get his haircut was there on the square in Murfreesboro. So I heard you guys talking about it. I wanted to share that comment.
It's possible. I mean, Al Capone has been seen in millions of locations, and I don't think he could have been.
I think they have a plaque up and everything. It's pretty official. Yeah,
that's awesome.
One of his favorite places. Yeah.
Well,
so keep up the great work, you guys.
Thank you.
Castle Studios in Franklin is a castle.
Okay.
That was built for Al Capone.
Hey.
So there you go.
Look at that. Mark Therian is the owner of Nashville Tours and Haunted Nashville. He's here to tell us the tale of the mayor of Printers Alley, David Scholl Showman. Mark, thank you so much, and happy Halloween to you, my friend.
My pleasure. If you want to come on our tours tonight for Halloween, well, you got to go to NashvilleGhost.com.
Make sure you get that in. And thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville as a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was directed by Mary Mancini. Our technical director and board operator is Liv Lombardi. Catherine Cecis was on the phones. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And special thanks to Catherine's dad, who is here to see us make the sausage, so to speak. The conversation never ends here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. You can call us up 615-751-2500. We might use it. We might not. Who knows? This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekalona. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. Happy Halloween and be good to each other.